Okay.
Hey, so we're finally made it
We made it.
onto the live. I know. Everyone told me that it's so easy. You just click the go live button from Zoom and it goes right into Facebook. But
It don't work that way.
no, it's a little bit more complicated. Anyway, thank you so much for taking the time to do this and talk to me and share your story. So, what is your, I mean, obviously I know your business very well at this point, but for everyone else, what do you do?
Awesome. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Yarelys Tifa. I'm the founder and CEO of Cash's Queen. I help first gen millennial women of color create generational wealth through investing, through getting their money together, making better financial decisions, and just like helping them realize that they deserve more. We deserve abundance. All of us do, because where I come from, and we're gonna get to that. But where I come from, or the narrative was that we should just make enough money to pay bills and not live in abundance. And there was always so much scarcity around money, like, oh, I have to work really hard to get it and all these things. And that's not the case. Wealthy people don't do that. They leverage time to be able to create wealth.
Yeah. And I think one reason that I love what you do so much is that these are people that are typically and systemically shut out of these conversations about money, about personal finance. There's so many like false beliefs and stuff like that, even with like paying taxes. Like one of my old coworkers who kind of grew up in a similar environment to you, she told me once that I was trying to help her like find a higher paying job, and we were like on LinkedIn, and I was kind of helping her with her profile and stuff and connecting her with people that I knew. And she was like, it doesn't even matter if I'm making this much money because they're going to take so much more in taxes. I'm walking away with the same amount of money as I am now. And I'm like, Vanessa, no, you're not.
Right. It's that like narrative that we have told ourselves for generations.
Yeah.
In our lifetime. It's been going back for a long time.
Right. And I'm like, if that were true, there would be no reason to like be ambitious and like take these higher paying jobs. Everyone would just stay, doing like whatever, because it's easy,
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So what is your money story? I know a little bit about, but I'm actually really excited because I don't think we've ever really like gotten deep into this before.
Ooh. All right. Well, this is it's a lot, but I'm gonna start from the beginning. My parents came here from Dominican Republic before I was born in the 80s. And I say this all the time, when you come here from a different country, you are trying to navigate a lot of different things. And usually you fall into the trap of, I need welfare. I can't, make ends meet because I'm not making enough money. My dad finished school, I think in like 6th grade, because he had to take care of his kids, or not his kids, I'm sorry, his siblings, his brothers and sisters. And there were 11 of them. So they couldn't afford to continue school. My mom got her GED, but it was very hard for her to get a good paying job. So guess what they had to do? Go to the welfare office and apply for a whole bunch of government assistance. And that's how we managed to survive, honestly. Like it was a survival kind of thing, survival mode where like, we sometimes, I remember towards the end of the month, we didn't have food left. So she had to really figure it out. She made very creative meals for dinner. And I would remember that we would eat like rice and beans for like a few days towards the end of the month, because she was she was waiting for that next check to come in or the food stamp money to kick in. And that's what I saw, right? I saw you have to work really hard to make money. You have to go to school to
kill yourself kind of hard. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, like you have to go to school to get a good degree so that you can be a professional and make a lot of money. And I just felt this wasn't really so much literal, like I heard people say this, but I felt that I wasn't worthy of abundance. I wasn't worthy of wealth. And it showed up when I started to make money. After I graduated college and I was in corporate America, I was in sales and account management for my entire career, actually, at work. And when I got like a bonus check, I hoarded that money. I was like, oh my, it was like $5,000. And I'll be like, I don't know if this is going to happen again. So I'm just going to like put it in a savings account because I don't think this is like a lifestyle. This is just like a one-off thing. And that
hey,
showed up in that way. I'm sorry?
At least you put it in a savings.
But now I'm like, okay, there's balance that you have to achieve in this money journey or in financial journey, whereas like it's not very healthy to like hoard the money either, right? And like I'm not going to give it to anybody else. You also have to, part of being wealthy is giving it out to other people that may not have the same opportunities and the resources that you have right now. And that's what I had to learn too.
Yeah, I come from a whole family of money hoarders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's this mentality of like, and like I grew up with wealth, but it was like, I feel like it was created out of a scarcity mentality of like, we don't know how much, and like spending it is always like an issue, not as far as like my parents are very generous with like, we'll go out to eat and, they'll pay for it or whatever, but that's not like, like huge amounts of money. But like when it comes to anything that's an outside of traditional education, and even that, because I had places where like I wanted to go to school, and I mean, I was like 18. I didn't know that, you don't need to go like somewhere fancy, but it was like cool. Like I wanted to go to like, somewhere really cool or out of state or whatever. And it was just like, no, it's too expensive. It's not worth it. And, so I just always grew up with this idea that money was very finite and you had what you had, and you'd better holding on to it was more important than any type of investment that you could make in yourself. And as far as, like mental health care and stuff like that, like my parents would have never spent money on therapy, like never.
And that's so important to do that. Like money is just a tool to get you the things that you want in life and to help you design the life that you want, that you desire, you know. And it's so interesting because it's either or, right? If you come from that scarcity mindset, you're either, when you get it, you're like, oh my gosh, I know. Make it rain. You buy things every single day, right? And you end up becoming an overspender.
Which I did for a long time when I was working and making, and like out of college and working and making my own money. I was like, finally, like I'm the one making the decision. Like I'm the one deciding what clothes I get to wear, and how I like mostly what clothes I get to wear. That was the majority of what I spent money on.
Right. But then you get to that unhealthy habit and cycle where you're buying like cars that you can't really afford, or buying a house that you can't really afford, because now you're in this overspending mode and you are subject to lifestyle inflation. Or what we all have heard of, keeping up with the Joneses. So you either do that, coming from from a background that doesn't have money and doesn't have wealth, or you do you do what I did, right? You hoard it and not wanting to give it to anybody else.
Okay, so you mostly like hoarded your money, but in savings, right?
In savings, yep.
But not investing, like not like doing things to grow wealth.
So it's interesting because that's what I teach. And when I was at work, I didn't really know about it. I didn't know about investing, and I didn't know the power of compound interest. So yeah, I would just put it in a high yield savings account, a regular savings account, and that's kind of where my money would live. But your money can go so much further, as we all know, by investing in it. And that's also something that, I mean, come on, we're still thinking about like having a roof over our heads and putting food on the table. There's no way we ever got a chance to even talk about what it means to invest, right? In different ways, not just in the stock market.
Right. And that's what I'm sitting here thinking. I'm like, well, like you should be really proud of yourself for saving that money, even if you didn't invest it, because I'm like, we're still very young. Like, and how could you have known? Like, how could you have known?
Right. It was literally me just trial and error, figuring it out, watching videos, reading books. I read a lot of books, listening to podcasts, like, and just like navigating this new life of me. I started work, right, as a 20 after college, right? So I was 21 around there, and I was already making twice the amount of money that my parents were making combined.
Wow.
And it was just like, it's mind-boggling to like really reflect on that, because it's like, how did you guys like take care of us? How did you survive? How did you make ends meet? And then you have people making $200,000 living paycheck to paycheck.
Dude,
you know, like, yo, what are we really doing here?
Yeah. So how did that feel like when you work? I mean, that was abundant. Like, but you talked about how like you didn't feel worthy of that abundance, but like when to make twice as much as your combined family income growing up, like what did that feel like?
I mean, it was kind of like, I was just shocked at the fact that I had an opportunity to really draw a line in the sand and say, you know, like, this is where like poverty and scarcity ends, right? It ends here with me. And from now on, the next generation is not going to start where I started. They're going to start where I end, you know, and that's like now being able to take advantage of investment vehicles, like investing in the stock market, investing in life insurance, creating trust and in all these different funds that people establish, wealthy people establish, that we have no idea how to do. We have no idea as millennial first generation. If you listen to this, I mean, we didn't grow up talking about this, listening to this, or any of this. So that's like my biggest mission, is to not only obviously help and add value to women that are in this space of like, no, it's, you know, wealth is not for me and all these things, to being
really
able
hear
to
that wealth is not for me.
Yeah, I mean, people, like, not in their own ways, right? In their own way of saying it, but that's kind of how I felt, right? When I was getting those when I started to get those sales bonus checks. Ooh, sales is amazing, but it's very lucrative, but it is stressful AF.
It's a hustle.
So, oh my gosh, it's such a hustle. But I learned so many skills in those jobs that are helping me now, in, you know, in scaling my company, that like I definitely don't regret, you know, going down that path. But yeah, I started getting those checks, and I'm like, what? This is for me? No, that's crazy. And then like making 5 figures in 1 month, all those things, it's like, wow, you really start to think, okay, well, everybody deserves this. Everybody deserves it. They just have to really hone into what they want in life and work smart. Yeah, you work hard, but you work smarter. And gone are the days of people working 9 to 9, right? Working in and out every single day in their either if it's their job or their business, right? Even in a business, you owning a business, yes, you're gonna have to work a lot, but I'm not excited and impressed by you working, from the beginning of the day, 8, 9 till 6, 7, 8.
Oh my
You
gosh, yeah.
You need
Yeah.
to have that balance. You have a
Yeah.
family.
I
Why are
realize,
you doing this?
yeah, I realize. So like, I know like one thing we've talked about is like, because I'm new to not having a full-time job and, not balancing my business
Welcome to the
side
dark side.
job. Right, right. And but I realize a lot of this, like I kind of beat myself up for like being lazy or whatever, because I realized that I really only work like
Yep.
do, but the work in my business that I do is very deep, very like, cerebral and sometimes emotional kind of work. And you can't do that for 8 hours a day. So if I do
Absolutely not.
yeah. So if I do that for like 4 or 5 hours a day, maybe in chunks, like maybe a little bit in the morning, and then, I need a break. So I go do some stuff and then come back in the afternoon and do some more, or, in the evening or something. It's like that is all it's meant to, maybe not all it's meant to be, but like that's how it's meant to be. And that's what
Right.
doing deep work and not, fiddling with like all of the busy work and stuff like that, at your job. And I
Yeah.
also look back and realize like how much time I spent at my job just like not doing anything.
So unproductive. I don't want to
Yeah.
hear about your weekends,
Yeah.
like all these distractions, and you work 8 hours, but
You don't really work 8 hours. Yeah.
right. It's like
You only work like
you just have
4.
to sit. You just have to sit somewhere in
You
eight
have to
hours.
sit,
That's
yeah,
horrible.
I
To do
know.
that.
I know. Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, and I realized as a fairly new business owner still, I started my business in 2020, that like I can go so much further. I could do so many more things by breaking up my days, right? Sometimes if I start in the morning, which is like 9, because I sleep in.
Same.
I like to sleep in.
Oh,
Those 7 a.m. business
sometimes the
owners,
morning starts at like 10 or 11.
listen, my 7 a.m. business owners, 6 a.m. business owners, I love you. And that's amazing for you.
I would
But that's not
love,
me.
yeah, I would love to be able to do that. I envy those people. I do, but I
I
can't.
like my sleep.
And it's,
I
I
like
mean, I
my sleep.
could, but it's not worth the energy that it would take to become that person. It's like, wow,
Right.
like I'm
Right.
fine. It's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if I do that, I start like 9 a.m. I may take a break at 12,
Yeah.
and go to the gym for that hour.
Yeah.
And I feel so much more productive and not busy. And I get so much more work done by doing that. It's just, I don't know, it's something in the brain where you're just like, now you get re-energized, especially if it's a gym break, right? If it's a gym session, because I'm one of those, I'm a gym rat. And it just works wonders. So it's incredible.
So I want to hear more about like the emotional side of your stepping into that abundance. And then also like did that happen while you were working? Were you like actively doing the mental work to decide like, I am a woman of abundance, I deserve money? Or did that come more after, like towards when you were thinking about like, I want to be a business owner, corporate America is not for me? Or like how did all that come about?
I think it was a progression as I grew in life and as I just experienced different things, that makes you more wise, that kind of like puts things in perspective. And I think it was just that series of events. So when I started work, like I was telling you, I was making twice as much as what my parents made. And this was 2011. Yeah, 2011. That's when I started, like a month after I graduated college. And then it was interesting because it was literally like that summer. So I started in like June, and it had to be like August or something like that, like towards the end of the summer, where I started to notice like, shit, I'm not going back to school because I interned for this company since the beginning of college, since freshman year. So I would intern, my internship was done. My presentation was done at the end of the summer in August, and I would go back to school like, I'm an adult, but not really, and it was just awesome. And I made money from the internship, very good money, actually, as a 17, 18, 19-year-old. So when I realized that there was no expiration date in my contract, I was like, this is different. I don't know about this.
Wait, you didn't finish school?
No, I'm saying after I graduated and I got my full-time job with the same company.
Yeah. Okay.
Around like the end of the summer, it kind of hit me that I wasn't gonna go back.
This is life.
No, like this is it. Yeah. Like I'm an adult for real now.
Yeah.
So and then I started to notice different things, right? So like I had mentors in the space, and some of my colleagues I looked up to, and it's really little small things that I started to pick up. Like, my mentor was unhappy with his pay, or this other person didn't like their boss, and they were just saying a lot of negative things about somebody that they see every single day. And then it's crazy. I would never forget this. I walked into an office of a sales manager's office, and she was crying. She was like bawling out in her office. And it was because she was going through a divorce. And I'm like, this woman is so successful. Like, I look up to her. I had known her for a few years through, the internships. And it really just made me notice that, like, I'm not pursuing a career or a job or a dollar bill. I want wealth. Like, I want to have healthy relationships with my family. I want to have solid friendships. I want to be happy with my pay. I want to choose who I work with. And I realized that a job, like a traditional job, didn't give me those things.
No.
So it was very quick when I started to notice that this was not what I wanted to do for my future. And this was like, again, like 3 months after I started full-time employment. Yeah. So it didn't happen like years later. It was quick.
It was
but the transition happened years later, because it's also, you have to go through your own thing, right? Your own journey. So that was the beginning of the end. That season in my life.
That's what we were talking about earlier, is like, you feel those decisions, fully in your body, that this is what is meant to be, what you're meant to do, or the right path, or whatever. And like you were saying, it might take a little bit of time or a lot of time in some cases to execute it. But like, that is your goal. That is what you are working towards.
Right. Yeah. And, throughout that time, it was a series of like growth pains, personally and professionally. I ended up, I went to UConn in Connecticut, and I was still working for that company in Connecticut, and they gave me a promotion in New York. And it was exciting. That's how I actually got a chance to come back. When I moved to Queens in 2013. And I wasn't in the position I wanted. I felt like I was being gypped, but I was like, you know what? I spoke to a few people, and they were like, this is a good opportunity. You're going to be in New York City. There's going to be so many opportunities. You just never know. So I made the move, and I found myself living paycheck to paycheck when I did that, because this was my first apartment. And it was just, I wasn't getting enough. I wasn't making enough to have a surplus. And then in that same role, like 2 years after, because I was in that office for like 5 years, but like 2 years after that, I got a chance to get very close to one of my colleagues. And we were, we got friendly, right? We were talking about personal things, and she did the same job I did. I'm never going to forget this. And one time at lunch, we were talking about pay, salary and stuff like that. And she disclosed her number and I disclosed mine, and I was pissed. I was so freaking pissed. She was making $12,000 more than I was.
Dude.
In this with the same role. And I was just, yes, she had more experience and all of that, but I was just like, well, like 5 figures more.
Yeah.
And that's what clicked when it clicked that, like,
that's $2,000 more, or no, that's $1,000 more every month. That's like your rent.
Yeah, exactly. Like I would have been able to have, 4 figures in surplus, probably.
Yeah.
So I was like, what? Yeah, my rent at the time was like $1,200, $1,100, something like that for a 1-bedroom, like basement apartment. You know how it is in the city.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I was so livid. I went to my boss's office like almost immediately. Like I think it was like that day or the day after. And I'm like, hey, and I was just advocating for a pay raise because no, hell to no. Okay. And you know how it is. Oh, I'm working really hard, blah, 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 blah. And then they end up giving me like a regular pay raise, like a, yearly 3%.
Yeah.
Yes. And I was so pissed. I'm like, and then now I look at like, how I negotiate and, when I'm talking to a company for a partnership, I make money on demand. Like I can make 4 figures in 1 hour now. What used to take me a 3% raise, for meetings, to talk to this person, talk to that person, kill myself at a job for a 3% pay raise.
Yeah,
you killing me? No. And that's like high. That's like, we know that's high.
Right.
So I don't want to get into that because I really appreciate, I had a great time in, the time that I was an employee, and I don't take anything for granted. And it was an amazing opportunity. And again, it really shaped the foundation of who I am today and how I run my business. So it wasn't like it made sense for that time. Everything serves a purpose and a season in life.
Yeah. No, and it's not to say like we're not here to like shit on your job or your company or whatever
at all.
It's more about, so I don't know how you feel about salary transparency. I am a huge advocate of that. I think these companies need to tell people how much what the salaries are. And really, honestly, I don't think the companies ever will. And I do understand that from a business standpoint, but it's more in the people that work there. I will be so honest in telling everyone, like, this is how much I made, this is how much my rent was, this is how much, this is what I did, this is my budget, here, do you want a copy of my spreadsheet? Like, I don't understand why it's not okay to be open about it, or to or to say like I made this much money, or whatever. And because honestly, like, had that conversation not happened, that you just so happened to be talking to her, and it sounds like this was after like months if not years of friendship and knowing her, this was not a day one conversation,
right
exactly. I think like, and so what I'm asking is like, why aren't these day one conversations? Why aren't people, why can't we be more open about it? Because it's the information is what we need to be able to take the power back.
Yeah. Yep. It's the foundation. It's the foundation. Money stories is the foundation of creating your generational wealth. Yeah. So it's so important. That's why I love talking about money stories, because it really shows you what you do now, how you move now, and why it happened, like why it happened that way. And if it was something that's may not be serving you, how to how to change the narrative, because we all have that control, right, to change what happens tomorrow, or change what happens in our financial future. We can't change, us being credit card debt or having student loans. It is what it is. But what can you do tomorrow? What can you do today in these next few hours to get better at money, right? Absolutely. To make more money, to advocate for yourself, to invest in the stock market. All these things matter, right? Yeah. Even if it's not the actual action, but maybe it's you listening to something, to a podcast or an interview. Here we are. That's like this. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, I meant to write it down. I wanted to mention something else about that, but it'll come back. Okay. Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask was, what money wounds from your childhood or from growing up, or, those early days in your career or whatever, like, do you ever find yourself slipping back into a scarcity or, whatever? And like, how do you overcome that now? Because I know as a business owner, it's hard. Like, you don't necessarily know, like,
you don't know what's going to happen.
You don't know. Yeah.
You don't know.
And I mean, probably
how much you make in next week.
Yeah. I mean, more
you got an idea.
Right. And more than likely, whatever happens, it's going to be okay. But you just still don't know.
Okay. I just remembered what I wanted to say about transparency.
Okay.
And then come back to me on that. Okay. But I think this is important to mention. We're talking about how, it's not very relevant, or it's just not talked about inside our employments, right? In our jobs and things like that. But I actually just got back from FinCon. If you guys know what FinCon is, or you don't, if you're not familiar, it's actually a financial literacy conference where money nerds from all across the country and the world. I met money nerds from Dominican, like they live in Dominican Republic.
No way, that's amazing.
So cool. Financial planners, advisors, counselors, coaches, financial psychologists. I met a financial psychologist. Yeah, that's crazy. You need to have her in your show. Oh
my gosh, yes, please. Yeah,
real estate investors. Yeah. I mean, I'm talking about like people that own like 30 plus properties. I met people that own hotels. What? People that are about to buy property in Kenya. What?
Like not an Airbnb, a hotel.
a motherfucking hotel. Three of them. Like what? People that retired and they're not falling apart, honey. Yeah. They have another 30, 40, 50 years. I don't know how old they are, but maybe 30 years. But still, like they retired 10 years ago. Yeah. I'm like, girl, what? So anyway, the reason I brought this up is because it was so refreshing. It was so freaking refreshing for what we talked about before we started recording. Me and Meredith, in case you guys don't know, we became friends through shared trauma. So we were both, that's kind of what it was, right?
It was literally, yeah.
We were both a part of a cult. So the last time I was in a conference, I was a part of this cult. So I kid you not, the day before the conference, before my flight, I kind of didn't want to go. I was like skeptical. I'm like, ooh, I was anxious. It was not, because it kind of brought me back to that time, right? Yeah. But anyway, I attended a session about this girl. She also serves the first gen community, woman of color, and my girl has brand partnerships. And it was so amazing to hear her journey and the fact that, and it wasn't just her, it was everybody. The fact that she's so transparent with her pay, because she's like, listen, if you start to, talk to a company, right? That wants to work with you, that wants to feature you in some way, that wants to hire you to post for them. This is what you should be asking for, right? Because if you ask for less, first of all, you're making me look bad because now I'm like at the top of the scale, right? And you're not advocating for yourself. Right. She's about to make $9,000 from one TikTok post this week. Amazing. $9,000.
That's amazing.
So, and it wasn't just her, everybody was willing to really share that knowledge. Like, hey, this is what you should be looking out for when you're signing contracts. When you're getting into partnership with these large brands. I mean, this girl has connections and partnerships with like Fidelity, like huge businesses. It's not like these little mom and pop or brick and mortar. Nothing wrong, but I'm saying it's like on that scale, right? So it was just very interesting to see the dichotomy, right, between when you're at work trying to talk about your money and pay, and people look at you like you got 5 heads.
And we don't talk about that here.
Exactly. It's just awkward versus like being in this space where they're really like advocating for pay transparency. And it's just so refreshing, super refreshing to have like experience that.
That's amazing. I'm so glad that you did it. I'm so glad you got on that freaking plane and went. Like, what if you had let that, the trauma, don't let the trauma win.
Don't let the trauma win, honey.
And hey, if you had gotten there and it sucked, like you could have just spent the weekend in Florida by the pool.
Mm-hmm. But it was a beautiful conference. But I know you had a question about my money wound. How it resurfaces now. It resurfaces a lot.
Right. Like, I mean, that's I feel like another thing that we need to talk about too is that for every business owner, it resurfaces regardless of whether you're in those beginning stages or if you are, in like 5-figure months or, whatever, is that these things are, it's like a constant, I see it as a constant work to be fighting that.
Yeah. Yep. And the biggest thing for me, and the pattern that I noticed, and that's what I will say, if anybody's listening and is kind of going through the same thing, is take inventory. This is like my thing, take stock of why am I thinking like this? Why do I feel this way?
Right.
Why do I feel like this, that I shouldn't be in partnership with this huge company, this multi-million-dollar company? Why is this like a limiting belief or a roadblock that's stopping me from getting to my next stage in life? So that's kind of what I do. One of my biggest ones is not only money hoarding, and especially, with what comes with being a business owner, and the fact that you're not getting a fixed check, right? Every bi-weekly or every week.
Exactly.
It's up to you to write that check, which is exciting, but it's also, on the other side, it's a little bit anxious, or like, you know what I mean? Anyway, so so that's one thing, but the other thing is imposter syndrome. And the fact that, again, just because, like I mentioned, when I was at work and I'm like, no, I don't deserve this. I don't think this is going to come back again. So that's kind of how I am too. Sometimes that resurfaces, where it's like, oh, am I good enough for this? Like, are they sure they want to hire me to do this? So they may want somebody else for this.
Right.
So that's something that, like, it's just constantly just in life, it's just always going to be that thing that we're not perfect, right? We're transforming. We're never going to get there. That's the thing too. We're always going to, every single day, we're going to get a little bit better. And that's my thing and my mission always. My daily mission is to get just a little bit better every single day. And that goes a long way, because compound interest is beast. Or compounding your habits, just like compound interest.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And one thing, I find that those wounds or those old stories or whatever come up most when I'm tired or frustrated or whatever. And right now I'm learning to tell myself, just go take a nap. Like,
Yeah, you'll figure it out later.
Go to a movie, go do something to turn your brain off, because this brain is not braining the way that we need it to right now.
It's not braining at all.
Yeah.
But what I will say, Meredith, what I will say, honey, is that my limiting belief around money, which was mainly money hoarding, it wasn't all bad. You know, it wasn't all
That's
bad.
What I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say.
I'm gonna get to the juice.
Right. You were saving that money. And I know that having that savings was a big step in what enabled you to take the step to start your business.
Exactly. So, you know, I left this in the company that I moved to New York for, back to New York for, I left them in 2017 because of all the things I learned those 5 years of pay transparency, just my skills in general, right?
Yeah.
I with the next company that I worked for, I gave myself a 30% pay bump. And that, you know, that was really transformational, because that same year, it was the first year of me learning about a new company culture, the products that I had to sell. I was learning the product and selling it at the same time, like back to back, you know. So it was, I was a machine. I'm not even gonna lie. I almost won like a trip to Jamaica for being like one of the top salespersons in the Eastern region that year. This was my first year, 2018. 2019, April of 2019, because of all this, and this is, again, it happened in the beginning, right? All these steps that happened to get here. I got a chance to pay off all my freaking debt, everything, student loans, car loans, credit cards, everything. I paid everything off. I was debt free. Is that your cat?
No, it's my phone.
Oh, the heck?
It just started vibrating and then like vibrated itself off of the table.
That's funny.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that was April of 2019. So
and so that was because of the pay raise combined with all of your previous years of hoarding.
Exactly. And because I was also really good at money management too. It wasn't that, you know, it was just that. It was that the fact that I got really good at budgeting. I got really good at, like, you know, making my money work for me. And I paid everything off in 2019. And then in 2020, COVID hit. And it was like a time warp. And people were like, yo, what happened between the months of March and July? Where was I? What did I do?
I can't even tell you. I drank a lot of wine. That's what I did.
Exactly. So it's like, you know, that happened. And then when we got back in the fields at work, there was a situation that caused me chronic back pain, lower back pain, like you could not believe. And it was to the point where I couldn't even walk that weekend, because this situation happened like Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
And almost instantly, my body went into like shock. Yeah. And this is like one of the worst things that happened in my life ever. It was the scariest thing that happened to me ever. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, what the heck is this? I couldn't bend down. I was literally in bed all weekend. And that gave me some space and time to think about what I wanted my life to be and look like in these next few years. And there was a big question mark around, again, having a job. You know, and then that with that same thought, I looked at my savings. I had probably like close to $20,000 in like liquid assets in my savings account. And then I had another like maybe 20,000 in, about 15,000 in a brokerage account, which I could access as well. So I'm like, shit. Yeah, I was like, oh my God, I have a whole year, at least a year of expenses saved. Yeah. And how did I know how much my expenses were every single month?
Because
I tracked it,
yes,
because I budgeted. So all these
exactly.
things that may look or seem like, busy work,
Yeah,
you never know when you're going to need it, honey.
no,
You
it
never know
pays
when you're going
off.
to need to access
Yeah,
it and reference
yeah,
it.
yeah,
So I was like, oh, I have a year of expenses saved. Fuck y'all.
exactly.
And I put in my resignation letter. It wasn't like it was easy though, just because I had
Oh,
money. It was still hard to,
yeah,
I had started Cash is Queen 3 weeks prior. So it wasn't like I was making money in the
right.
business. I didn't know, I didn't have social proof.
No,
Well, I didn't even know if this thing was going to work. So what happens after the year if it doesn't work? I honestly didn't think that far. So I would really encourage everybody here, if you are thinking about transitioning from your job, really think about those things. Like, what is the worst case scenario in this case, in this situation, in this scenario? Because
but it's not like a life or death thing. Like I remember talking to my business coach, probably around this time last year, I think it was, about how unhappy I was and how I didn't want to get up in the morning. I didn't want to go to work, and but being scared to give up that income because what if, like what if
Yep.
and she was like, well, what is the worst case scenario? And she was like, she was like, I know you're not gonna just, starve and lose your house and end up on the street or whatever. She was like, you're just gonna get another job.
You're just gonna figure it out.
You're just gonna figure it out. You're probably gonna get, if you have to go back to work, then you will. And I remember realizing that. I mean, like, oh yeah, like I'm not gonna die. I'm not gonna,
Oh my God.
like I'll just get another job. Like these are the options. We have so many options available to us at all times. And I mean, I'm really happy with what I'm doing and it's going well, but I still look at jobs. I still get LinkedIn alerts. I want to see what's out there. What if there's something really interesting,
Exactly.
Like,
and
I want to know. Yeah.
and isn't that beautiful? Like, it's about the option to be able to do that, to have that list of things that you can do. You're not tied to one thing no longer. Gone are the days of like having to work. If you're not happy, what are you doing about it? If you're not happy with your situation, with your job, with your career, you think it's dead end, okay, what? You're just gonna talk about the problem all day? Like, what do you there's options for you too. You can build FU money fund like I did. I'm not special. And leave your job and do, either go to another job that's going to be better for you, or start that bit, whatever that is, right? But you have the option. You're in the driver's seat.
And you can make those changes, and it's not overnight, but it gets there. You have to look, month by month, quarter by quarter, year by year, of like, where are you? And and you're usually, that's how you move forward.
Right. Exactly. But I wanted to ask you, Meredith, you mentioned that you were scared because you were going to let go of that fixed income and those benefits. There's that, but does that come from anything else, from any, previous money story, or what was that for you? What was that like main theme when it came to your limiting belief around money?
So oh my God, there's so much we could talk for another hour. But in I'm thinking about how can I tell this story in the shortest amount of time possible? But
because we gotta get going.
I know. I'm like, we were like, oh, let's talk for 30 minutes. It's been like an hour already. Whatever. It's fine. I'm gonna edit some of this. This is just, live in the group right now, and then I'm gonna edit some of this before I put it out onto a podcast platform. So
okay,
we'll get the highlights. But in 2020, I borrowed some money from my dad because I had been I had been very aggressively paying off debt from starting around like 2018 through now still. Like I'm still paying it off. And I did I got really far really fast, and I was very proud of myself, and I started looking at like interest rates for like, personal loans and stuff, and how, like, okay, can I get a better interest rate than what I'm paying on my credit card? And how can I get that? And like, what are the options and stuff? So I mean, the interest rate on my credit card was not bad. It was 13%.
Oh,
So
wow. That's
right.
the low
I know. And I
end.
still have that card anytime, especially right now in business, anytime that I have to pay for something and I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to be able to pay off. I'm like 13%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Wells Fargo. But yeah, so to make it worth it to take a loan, I wanted to get like, 6%, 8% or something like that. And most of the loans that I qualified for were more like 10 or 12%. And I'm like, it's not worth the hassle. So I ended up talking, mostly like I approached my dad for just like advice, and like potentially could he, co-sign on a loan so that I could get, the 6 or 7%, interest rate.
Yep.
And I did not start out to ask for money, but I actually started the conversation of like, this is where I was 2 years ago. This is what I've been doing. This is where I'm at now. And I disclosed everything about like my salary and how much I was making and how much like, I turned over my, my budgeting sheets and stuff like that. And he was so nasty about it to me, because it wasn't that and it gave me a lot of insight into the way that I was raised in my childhood, because it was never about the improvement. It was about the fact that it happened in the first place and being held to an impossible standard.
Wow.
That, and to not make mistakes that I wasn't even educated about. And
Right.
to just like be perfect in every way, and that
He just expected you to know all these things without
right.
have giving you the manual to do so.
Exactly. Yeah. And he told me that my salary was so low, and that I shouldn't be like, it was just, I mean, it was a really nasty conversation. Like I think back to it now and I'm just like, how is this, I mean, he told me I said, okay, yeah, I understand, like I made the mistake and it kind of sucks that I did that, like obviously I'm paying for it now, but like I've learned so much from it. I keep saying
Right.
like I've learned so much, like
you don't care about that. You don't
yeah,
care about
I'm like, I've learned so much, and now like I am, for a lot of my friends, I am that person, including my sister, like I am that person that people go to when they decide that they want help with their budget. And I'm like, oh yeah, here's what I do, like here's my spreadsheet, blah blah blah. And I am so proud of that, like to be able to help other people with that, with that journey that I was on and the knowledge that I gained.
But he didn't care. You didn't care about that.
He said you're in no position to help anyone else with their budget, and that if you actually knew anything about budgeting, this never would have happened in the first place.
Wow.
Yeah. And so from that, like I really internalized that, any dollar of debt is like bad, like not just is it bad, but it means that it equates to being a failure.
Yeah.
And so it was like really, so when I was thinking about giving up my full-time job, that was that to be transparent, like really only brought home, or like after taxes and benefits, after they took everything out, it really only brought home around $2,500 a month. It was not like a lavish life by any means. And it was always a an amount of money that had to be supplemented, because that's not, you know, in
Right.
New York, like
Yeah.
it's not enough to live off of. And or it's enough to live off of, but that's like survival, you know.
That's
That's
it.
like,
Yep.
yeah, that's like I was fortunate to be able to, you know, I could buy healthy, like organic food. I could, you know, I could pay my rent, and I could pay, you know, the internet, you know, the gym membership, and, you know, whatever, but that was it. Like I remember having, like, splurging on a $10 bottle of wine. Like,
wow.
yeah.
My girl says splurging on a $10
I know, on a $10 bottle of wine, like gross,
oh
you know.
gosh.
Yeah, because there was literally, because that's how little there, you know,
Wow.
wiggle room there was.
Yeah.
So, you know, the idea of doing something that might result in debt, or in like hiring someone to help me with, you know, like hiring a business coach, or, you know, whatever, and not being like exactly sure how I'm going to pay for it, or, you know, whatever, anything that, you know, went off of like a gut feeling of like, I should do this, and I know that it's going to be a good investment, and it might be hard in the beginning, but it's going to pay off tenfold. I lost that sense of trust. Like I completely lost that sense of trust. So where like all I could see was the dollar amount, the numbers. And without, and I think that I think that it should be a balance, right? You know, I think that we should trust ourselves to like go out on faith and make some of these decisions of like, you know, okay, I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen, but I have this really strong feeling. But it shouldn't be like, okay, I'm going to, you know, give up this job or give up this income, and I'm going to do this, but I'm also going to like travel and spend and make it rain and stuff like that, you know, like because that's what feels right, you know, like so I think that it should be a balance, but I lost that capability, or rather it was, you know, taken from me, that capability to trust in myself.
Wow.
Became money.
Yeah.
So
and how are you working on that actively right now, especially as a business owner?
I spend a lot of time arguing against that voice in my head, as though I were an attorney trying to prove it in the court of law. Does that make like I have to, if I'm going to,
we have to actively work on it all the time,
right? Like
it doesn't just go away,
right? And I literally imagine the jury of my friends like you and Kingsley and like everyone like are like on that jury in my head, and I have to stand up as the voice and convince, you know, and argue against myself of like, you know, arguing that, you know, oh, like she's never going to make money, she's never going to do this because X and X and X and X. And then I see the arguments, you know, against it, that like the good lawyer is saying like, well, she has to do, you know, like, well, what about this, or what about this and this and this? And another thing that I think about too is that if you are not going to believe in yourself, or if you are going to discredit yourself, or if you are going to go with this idea that, you know, I don't deserve abundance or whatever, that also discredits everyone else who believes in you.
Wow.
So it's one thing, yeah. So like it's one thing to not believe in yourself or to discredit yourself. But at this point, if I'm discrediting myself, I'm discrediting you and Kingsley and Michelle and all of and anyone who has ever hired me for anything, any client that I've ever had that believed in me, that thought that I was talented, that wanted to work with me, any, you know, like any, like anyone,
anybody, yeah,
And I'm like, well, I can't discredit those people. Like,
right. And then on the other side, it's like, well, you know, we always like uplift other people, right? We're always talking about, oh my gosh, I believe in you. So you're telling somebody, you're telling yourself you don't believe in yourself, but you're telling other people you believe in them.
Right.
It's also like, okay, you can't really, you know, you can't add a value when you feel like you don't have any for yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's what I was kind of getting at earlier, is like, you know, these things come up the most when I'm tired, or when I'm frustrated, or when I'm working through a problem in my business. I've spent a lot of time the past couple of months learning how to do things that I've never done before. And it sucks. Like, I would rather just do something that I'm like really good at it. You know, it's hard to like, you know, try some, like spend all day at something and then like, oh, this, you know, like I have this shitty result, like
right.
You know, like it doesn't feel good. And so, you know, and that's also a lot on your brain. Like, it takes a lot of brain energy to do that kind of work that you've never done before.
Right.
It's probably the hardest thing that you can do. And so that it's in those times when I'm, you know, mentally exhausted or whatever, that those voices come up. And that's when, you know, I have to tell myself, okay, like, this is not productive. Like, we're getting into a bad place.
Right.
So let's go take a nap. Let's go watch TV. Let's go, you know, do something else. And
it's good that you can catch that early on.
I try. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what, and I think that's what like makes me even more mad, is that it's very insidious. Is that sometimes you can't catch it. Sometimes you and sometimes it takes somebody else to catch it for you, which again speaks to what we were talking about before, is the importance of having these conversations.
Right.
That you know, like, because it's just,
we all have blind spots too. So
Yeah.
sometimes other people notice some things that you need to take care of and you need to work on that to you is like, oh yeah, that's just what I do. Well, no,
Right.
you can change, you can get better by doing XYZ. So
yeah.
That's the importance that I talked about this in my newsletter this morning. That's the importance of community, of having like a tribe of people that are in different areas in their life, spaces, you know, environments, seasons, and that just like have that like desire to win themselves, but also believe in you.
Right.
You know, so.
Right. What do you think your biggest fear is?
Damn. you went there.
This came up with a client recently. A client that hired me for copywriting and growing his social media. He told me, I interviewed him on Friday, and he told me his story so that I can write his bio and stuff. And he just came out and said it. Like, he was like, my biggest fear was this. And my biggest fear is still this. And what he said was so powerful, it stuck with me. It really stuck with me. And what he's, well, I'll let you answer.
Okay. I'm gonna answer, but I want to hear what he said.
And then
So kind of in the same level, or just like, you know, piggybacking of what we've been talking about in this session with money stories. My biggest fear when I was still trying to figure out and undoing all this, my storyline and my narrative, back then was I feared success. I did. So just like I was telling you, you know, I would receive money, I would make bonuses. That was my biggest, I was like, you know, not only success, but like when I get there, am I going to fulfill people's thought of me? If that makes sense. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but am I going to meet people's expectations of me?
Okay.
And I'm at that level. Right. Or am I going, you know, like around like how me achieving success, how am I going to, is that really like is it really, you know, am I worthy of it? Kind of like along those lines. Yeah. So yeah, so that was, I don't fear success like that anymore, I would say. And it's very, it doesn't resurface that much. But right now, let me see. I don't know. I think this is so, yeah, I haven't thought about this question in a long time.
I know.
So it kind of tripped me up.
Well, what he said that really got to me was that, and the what he said was that he was most afraid of never giving himself never getting out of his way and giving himself the opportunity to be brave.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what I'll say? I'll say my biggest fear is letting ideas die that will help the next generation create wealth. I don't want my ideas. I want my ideas to still live when I'm no longer here. Just because I'm gone, I don't want everything that I worked for and everything that like I shared with the world to die also.
Right.
So
right.
That's my biggest thing. I want to die empty. You know, I want to, when it comes to like my ideas, things that are going to help others, things that are going to help people get their money back, you know, on track, things that are going to help people create 6 figures and 7 figures in net worth before they retire, you know, things like that actually will help households bottom line.
Yeah. So, yeah. I think it's, for me, I really resonated with what he said about, you know, not giving yourself the opportunity to be brave. But for me, it's also, I really fear not having an impact. Or not having the chance to really, I spent a lot of time fearing not having the opportunity to achieve financial abundance. Yeah.
Because when you get there,
right,
when you get there, you can help other people get there.
Yeah. But it's also, but even that is like, okay, so now that like I break that down, even that is like a kind of a mindset thing, because it's like, well, what is financial abundance, you know?
Right. You have to kind of break that down, because it's different for everyone.
Exactly.
So what does that mean? That's what you feel.
Right. Exactly. And like, what is my idea of it? Because I better, if that's what I'm going to be afraid of, I better be able to name that idea. And know that's, rather, it can't just be like this thing, because then, you know, if I don't know what it is, I might never get there.
You got to get specific.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to get very specific. That's why I said that, you know, like the ideas of helping people do this. That's what I fear. Not creating those ideas while I'm alive, you know, on this earth. Or not seeing those ideas come to fruition. Yeah.
Amazing. Great talk.
Yeah, that was
very
awesome.
Good talk. Very good talk. All right, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I am most active on Instagram at YTIFA14. So that's YTIFA14. That's my handle. Or I am on Facebook at Yarelys Tifa or Cash's Queen LLC. I also have a website, www.cashesqueenllc.com. You can find me there as well. So I'm everywhere, you know?
She's everywhere. She has an amazing newsletter too. I always look forward to reading your newsletter.
Yay! And that was my goal. I wanted to create that community and that people, where people wake up on Monday, they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna get a newsletter from Yarelys."
Right.
That's what I want.
I don't always catch it. Like, you know, some days you don't, you know, it gets too far in the bottom of your email. But when I catch it, I'm always like, oh my, no, stop everything. I want to read what she has to say.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. And you can actually access it too. So if you go on my the link in my bio on Instagram, that's where it is if people want to access it.
Awesome. Yeah, go read her newsletter. All right, thank you for doing this and for taking so much time, and this was really great.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. All right, talk soon.
Bye.